Let's do it here. Another edition of Goz on the Go. Everything you need from the sports world. A day behind, but we're still here. We'll get to the reason why we're publishing a day later. But nonetheless, everything you need from the sports world in a nice, tidy 30 minutes. Before we get to the big topics, we got to give love to our partners who make Goz on the Go and all these Goz on the Media podcasts possible. First, our friends over at Mohawk Honda. The fall is here. You're looking to trade in your vehicle. What vehicle do you want? How's it going to happen? Who are the best people to talk to? We have already got the answers for you, and that is the crew at Mohawk Honda. Take advantage of the Kelly Blue Book offer going on right now, where you can stop over to Glenville, New York, and walk away with money in your pocket. They want to make sure you get the vehicle that fits your lifestyle, your budget, and more, and it happens at Mohawk Honda. Trust me, I know it from experience. I love my pilot. Been driving around the capital region. My wife, the baby, I'm sure my soon-to-be, well, they already are my in-laws. They'll be riding around and hopefully maybe even driving it safely around the capital region. You can do the same for yourself. Hop in a new ride thanks to Mohawk Honda. Say what's up to my guy, the VIP man, Hot Sauce. Say what's up to Greg Johnson, Cam McKenna, the Harrington family, and more, helping you get into the ride that you love. It is Mohawk Honda, where they always go out of their way to please you. And our friends over at Johnstone Supply in Troy. The fall is here, as we mentioned, and now that means colder weather is on the way. I like to call this hoodie and shorts weather, but with the shorts slowly getting put back away, you've got to make sure your home is heated properly. Have you taken care of your furnace? Do you need to change for one of your filters? Do you want to have the upgrade to make sure your home is heated properly with efficiency and more? It can happen for you at Johnstone Supply in Troy. Check them out on 6th Avenue. Walk in, say hello to our guys, Tom and Kev and James. Maybe the big boss, George, is in there, where they want to answer your questions to make sure that your home is ready to go for the soon-to-be months where it gets colder and colder here across upstate New York. Check them out on Facebook as well, Johnstone Supply Troy NY, where you can find out more about the great things happening this October. And I can't wait to share more details. We've already kind of teased it a little bit. We'll have more details to come throughout the month of October, where you can help with some great causes here in upstate New York. It is Johnstone Supply in Troy. Now, on to this week's episode of Goz on the Go. Here we go, baseball fans. You get what you want here. The final few games of the regular season matter as they're supposed to, but maybe not as many as you hope. Really, the focus, as it's been for the last couple of weeks, is on the American League wildcard. And when we're taping this, the Yankees have finished off a victory against the Toronto Blue Jays. So the Yankees now sit 2 games up on the Boston Red Sox, the Seattle Mariners, and the Blue Jays starting to fall further back away from those teams. Yankee fan, what more do you want? Well, obviously you want the AL East and not to be in this chase for the wild card, but that's left, so you can't have that anymore. You're up 2 games in the wild card with 3 to play. You've got the position that you want to be in, the advantage in your spot, all that stuff. So right now it seems as if it's the most likely that the New York Yankees are going to be playing in a 1-game wild card against either the Red Sox or the Mariners. And if you missed it, go back and listen to our Getting There with Goz episode. Also, we shared it on Levac and Goz. Well, Levac and Goz 2. Getting There with Goz. It was our interview with ESPN's Insider Buster, only to talk about the end of the season. He said from his perspective, there's nothing better for baseball than to get a Red Sox, Yankee, 1-game wild card, winner-take-all playoff matchup. You've already heard me say I'm not a fan of the 1-game playoff. I don't want just one Red Sox Yankee. I want a series. That's better than 1 game, do or die. Game after game, the storylines, the magic, that early 2000s series we're talking about, 03 and 04, the drama, the great time to be a baseball fan. Now we're just going to smash it in for a pop in the ratings. Ugh. Doesn't feel great to me. Now the Yankees get 3 games with Tampa, but Tampa's really not playing for anything, are they? Pride? To find out what pitchers you may or may not want to toss against the Yankees if you see them in a future American League matchup. But talking about pitchers and who they're going to toss, you've already played this team a bunch during the season. And the Rays do have 98 wins, so the Rays are the best team in the American League. And because of the ways in which this playoff format is going to be put up against, whoever comes out of the wild card game's going to play the Rays anyways. So we may not see as much out of that series as competitive as we want to be, but as we've learned throughout the baseball series here that are having impacts, teams like the Orioles are still sticking around. Teams that you didn't think were going to have a play in these types of games are sure enough playing a factor. Yankee fans, you know how it's been the last couple of weeks. Aaron Judge, smashing home runs. Giancarlo Stanton, smashing, as my guy at Sir Burt likes to say, and others, dingers. Judge smashing dingers. Stanton smashing dingers, and the Yankees looking like a team you thought they would be the entire season. But by the next time this airs, which we're talking about the next guys on the go by Wednesday, so many different things could already be done for this Yankee team. Season could be over. By the time this airs, it's possible the Yankees did not make the playoffs, and that is the true legacy of what's going to happen for the 2021 New York Yankees. This gets turned up to 100, the max in your car. And this happens for all teams that make the postseason, where baseball is turned to be different. Every move by the manager puts their job at risk. There's no other sport that has that happen when the games matter the most. If you're a team that qualifies for the college football playoff, they're not threatening the college football coach's job. March Madness, even with massive upsets, people like Tony Bennett, when he was coaching up Virginia, got knocked off by a 16 seed. He didn't get canned. But in baseball, it could be the move of what pitcher you did or didn't use. What reliever did or didn't come into the game. How about Joe Girardi? Some would argue he lost his job because he didn't challenge a play. That's what's going to be faced here with Aaron Boone. Go run through the managers in baseball of which one is under more pressure than Aaron Boone. You're telling me by the time this week ends, if the Yankees aren't in the ALDS, that nobody from New York is going to talk about the future of Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone? That's absolutely not the case. There is nobody quite like that. Not Milwaukee, not San Francisco, not LA. There is nobody who over the course of the next 7 days is under more pressure to have their team advance deep than Aaron Boone. So Yankee fan, get excited, enjoy it. Your team's going to have an opportunity to compete for a World Series championship, which is all great things and all what baseball fans hope their teams can be in. But the idea that the Yankees are going to celebrate and dance and pop champagne because they might get through a one-game wild card is not realistic how a Yankee fan acts. Be excited, but the pressure is not turning off for the Yankees. They're still going to face that coming October. How are you not embarrassed if you're a New York NFL football fan? Buffalo, take a seat. You guys are doing fine. This is not about you, okay? Go crack open a wonderful Labatt Blue, jump through a table, enjoy the Bills, the mob. This is not about you. We're talking about the Giants and we're talking about the Jets and the embarrassment that those two franchises have become since 2017. What the hell happened in week 3? Both of those franchises should be embarrassed of the product they put on the field the first 3 weeks of the season. First with the Giants. Atlanta, you can't beat the Falcons. The week in which Eli Manning gets honored, put in the Ring of Honor, number goes up, number 10, they're cheering, you're getting the momentum from the crowd. You can't muster up anything against an embarrassing Atlanta team. And it's not Daniel Jones. Look, Daniel Jones is not great. He's not good. I've already ripped him apart in a previous podcast before, but it's across the board. From Saquon Barkley to the wide receivers, the offensive line's better but not good enough. This is just a bad team from top to bottom, and you look at organization, management, nothing is good about the New York Giants, and they've been so bad for so long. Think about all the primetime games we've had to suffer through in the Giants and how they have no offense. You're not excited on offense, you can't win football games, you don't have a dominant defense. That's been the Giants. The Jets? Well, you got a rookie quarterback in Zach Wilson, but he's struggling through multiple picks. They can't move the ball against Denver. Robert Saleh seems as if he may not be ready to be a head coach. And you've got Joe Douglas, who still has that Adam Gase stink to him. Remember why Joe Douglas is the GM of the New York Jets? It's because Adam Gase wanted Joe Douglas. That's what happened. The organization had to pick between either we're going to go with the GM that we want or we're going to go with the GM that Adam Gase wants. And they gave Adam Gase so much power, they said, you know what, Adam Gase? We'll take the guy that you want. Your BFFs with Joe Douglas, we'll let Joe Douglas run the team. What the hell has Joe Douglas done? Think about these stats. Of the last 67 games played by the New York Jets, you know what their record is? 18-49. Do you know what the record of the last 67 games is for the New York Giants? 18-49. That's right. They, the Giants and Jets, have the same exact record over the last 67 games. 31 games below 500. Want more math? How about combined? This is an easy one. 36-98 combined since 2017. The Jets and the Giants. And it's not as simple as get a new quarterback, get a new head coach, and get on the carousel again and spin it around and see where it takes you. This goes all the way to the top of the organizations. To the GM, you told me both Dave Gettleman and Joe Douglas are gone at the end of the season. I'd believe that. You tell me that the ownership groups, both the Johnson and the Mayors, have to sit down and figure out how the hell they're getting this so wrong so often. That needs to happen. Because it seems as if the NFL and the quarterbacks and the offenses and the defenses, it seems as if the Jets and the Giants didn't get an invite to the party. Doesn't feel as if they know the same rules to the game that everybody's playing. Wait a second, hang on. You can have a Patrick Mahomes on your team? Or a Lamar Jackson? Or a Russell Wilson? When did this start? We can get all these impact players. What about Justin Herbert can be a quarterback? All these exciting young quarterbacks that no one's even sniffing around for New York. Think about this. Who's the best player for the New York Giants? All right, for the Giants, you could say Saquon Barkley because he's produced the most in the past. Jabril Peppers is exciting. So you've got some candidates for the New York Giants. How about this? Who is the best player for the New York Jets? Think about that statement out loud for a second. Who the hell is the best player right now for the New York Jets? Any guesses? Thinking about it? Let me toss two names at you that are playing the best of any New York Jets right now. How about the big man? Foley Fatukasi. PFF has him with the highest grade. And what about the other big man on the other side of the football, offensive lineman Raymond Chase? If I told you about Foley Fatukasi and Raymond Chase, you'd think, all right, those two names are made up. Those guys are no way the best players for the New York Jets. Chase and Fatukasi. Guess what? I just made one of them up. Think about it. Who did I just make up? Foley Fatukasi or Raymond Chase? That's how bad the New York Jets are. I just did a whole thing about who their two best players are, and you don't know which one probably right now is actually a fake player. It's Raymond Chase, by the way. So I want to just fool you in telling you who the hell the best players are for the Jets, and unless you're a diehard Jet fan, you may not know who Foley Fatukasi is. So you're struggling to even name the best player on the Jets. The best player on the Giants is not performing anywhere close to what he's supposed to be. And now you've got to get excited for the rest of the season? I remember when we were getting crushed at one point in high school in a game, the rare time Salve High School was losing, and someone yelled out from the crowd, "Change everything." That's what I wish some New York sport fan would yell at the Giants and Jets. It's not getting better this season. Change everything. As bad as it is right now for the New York Giants and the New York Jets in professional football, are we hitting a glory time for college football in New York State? Think about this, from the FBS level all the way down to Division III. Has there ever been in 10 to 15 to 20 years quite like what we're seeing in this September of 2021? At the FBS level, you've got Syracuse football. The Orange are 3-1. They're a few plays and a personal foul call away from being 4-0 if they knock off Rutgers. In Syracuse in a wide-open ACC, Orange fan, if you want to believe in the Orange Bowl, you got a few more weeks to do it, and I won't stop you. So Syracuse is playing great. Army, undefeated, 4-0. And they're likely going to be favored in their biggest game of the season in December when they take on Navy. And if they beat Navy, that's a successful season for the team that plays independent football. So Army's 4-0. Syracuse is 3-1. Buffalo's at 2-2. And a wild MAC overall. The only team with a MAC victory right now is Toledo, and they played Ball State. And both of those teams have actually looked really good in September. But let's not cross off the Bulls in any way to say they can't win the MAC this season. Patterson, their running back last year, was setting NCAA marks and everything else. So Buffalo's good. Syracuse is good. Army is good. If you bump it down to the FCS level, now UAlbany's struggling. Stony Brook is not in the top 25. There's a team you're hoping to make it to the next level at the FCS. But right now, the New York teams aren't playing well at the FCS level. You have to own that. That's where the far weakness is in comparison to the other levels of football. For those who don't know, there is no Division II teams that play in the Empire State. So you got to jump to D3. And before you look at the D3 teams that are having success already this season, you have to go to the biggest news that's made national headlines, and that's Cortland and Ithaca. The Cortica Jug coming to Yankee Stadium in 2022. A lot of people don't like the idea of moving it off a college campus because of what's happened in the past at Cortica, the big parties when they made national headlines years ago and more. Then go to these larger venues like MetLife Stadium and the Yankee Stadium. Don't feel like it's a real college game for the fans that are actually students there. But if you're able to pack professional venues for a rivalry game, and you might have coverage you've never had before, who knows, maybe College Game Day makes a trip for the Cortica Jug in 2022. That's great news for New York college football fans. And if both programs are good, it's even better. Which leads to this. Currently, the most recent D3Football.com Top 25 poll, which is the poll that's recognized as where your ranking is going to be. New York teams, the Union Dutchmen, undefeated, 12th ranked, the Pride of Schenectady. They're sitting there at 12. Ithaca, 17th, undefeated, 3-0. Cortland, 19th, undefeated, 3-0. Hobart, undefeated, 4-0, 21st in the country. Also, RPI, let's give them love. They're sitting outside the top 25, but they got votes to be in the top 25. That's a lot of New York teams. Now, Ithaca and Hobart play each other this week, so whoever wins that game between my beloved alma mater and the Bombers from Ithaca is going to likely jump up and have a case to be a top 15 team. Oh, and by the way, Hobart's going to roll back over again and play Union on that Halloween weekend the day before. So there's a chance one of these teams is going to get as high as the top 8 in the country because of how the schedules have laid out this season. So if you're a young kid who's listening to this and you think, I want to go D1, I want to post my offers and everything else, or I want to get out of New York because New York doesn't have good football, that's not the case now in fall of 2021. The New York teams are playing at this level better than they have in possibly a decade plus. And it's a great time to be a New York sports fan. If you want to watch college football, wherever you're listening to this podcast from, go watch some of these games because it is a glory time right now for the Empire State when it comes to collegiate football. The theme of this week, especially with the New York side of it, it feels like the worst, the best, and what could have been. And the what could have been here, I'm not ready to call it the 30 for 30, the best that never was, to talk about Marcus Dupree. But I'm just disappointed and sad, and I feel as if you're a sports fan, especially if you're listening to this in New York, what could have been involving UFC fighter Jon Jones. For years I've said this, and it still stays true today. When you talk about native New York athletes, besides Breanna Stewart, and what she's done in the WNBA and UConn, so she's won. But if you told me the best male New York native athlete over the last 10 years, who would you pick? It's a tough conversation. But the answer is Jon Jones. Jon Bones Jones dominated the UFC. When you have the conversation of the GOAT, the greatest of all time in the UFC, Jon Jones' name is in that discussion. So when you run through other sports, whether it be hockey, well, Wayne Gretzky did play for the Rangers, but you think more about him in Edmonton, and you know the greats. Babe Ruth. Jon Jones was going to be in that greatest ever to do it conversation, and despite of what's happened outside of the octagon, he's still in that discussion. But the problem with Jon Jones is that he's not easy to root for. Jon Jones is not somebody you want to say you're a fan of anymore. I remember sitting in Hobart, and we tried to do our best to find a way to pirate a Jon Jones fight because of how badly we wanted to see it. And that was a Saturday night when a party was going on because everyone wanted to watch Jon Jones fight. For a lot of people like me, Jon Jones is the first, he's my favorite UFC fighter. It sounds like a long time ago, but that's what it was. If you were into the UFC, you had to find a guy, and Jon Jones is my guy. Because we want to see a New York guy do his thing. Whether it was a PED positive drug test, whether it's getting arrested and all the wild stories. As I've said Jon Jones before, he's not the good crazy. You know, you have a friend who does something wild when you're out one night, just having fun, goofing off, and maybe he's been overserved. Okay, that's a fun crazy. Jon Jones would take it to the other level and all of a sudden make it a dangerous crazy. Okay, man, you don't need to be doing that. That's what Jon Jones was. And he needs to find a way to get help or embrace the help. Daniel Cormier apologized and took some blame for himself because he said Jon Jones is going to screw this up. And that's not the right attitude to have. Even my last few minutes there about leveling the crazy of Jon Jones, I feel weird about talking about it because it's not as easy to joke around about it anymore with Jon Jones because so many times he's put his true career and other people's health in risk. I never wanted this to be the Jon Jones story. I wish we could have just got Alexander Gustafsson versus Jon Jones again for a trilogy and had those guys fight forever. I wish I could be hyping up a Brock Lesnar or a Stipe Miocic or finally another Cormier fight which could have sold out everything and pushed the ticket sales like McGregor, the true rivalry of a heavyweight division that as great as the UFC has been, they've never had a great heavyweight. And could you ever imagine, we see it in boxing, which we're going to get to here in a second, of what a heavyweight champion with a personality could do for the fight game, the baddest dude on the planet. Jon Jones could have taken it to the next level there. So it's hard to not say you're rooting for a New York athlete to do well. It's hard to say that you didn't want to see somebody from maybe from downstate at Binghamton to be the best ever at a sport. I wish I could tell you I'm a Jon Jones fan. I'm not. I was. I wish I could tell you the next time Jon Jones fight, I'm going to get it. Why? If he pops for PEDs, Dana White's not sending my $60 back. Disappointed is the term I'm going to use here one more time. But it's truly the what if. His brother Art Jones, Syracuse guy, Super Bowl champion. His brother Chandler Jones, going to be finally in the conversation for NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He may have been the most underappreciated player on the defensive side of the NFL the last 5 years. And he's the few player, maybe the only one, that Bill Belichick got wrong and cut him too soon. And Jon Jones could have been the next great all-time athlete. And unfortunately, that conversation is not going to happen. And I don't know when, after this domestic violence allegation and crime, we're ever going to see Jon Jones in the octagon again. I love the quote that Ariel Helwani had on Pat McAfee's recent show about the future of boxing. And it's so spot on. He said, look, everyone wants to have the lazy take that boxing's dead, boxing is no good, blah, blah, blah. And it's been a lazy take by a lot of national pundits and experts in perspective. But Ariel Helwani had pointed out that dead means no one wants to copy what's going on. Dead means nobody wants to be around it, like a dead piece of wood. That's the furthest thing that boxing is at this point. Why did Conor McGregor jump from mixed martial arts to boxing to fight Floyd Mayweather? Because he knew there was money and an audience and people wanted to see it happen. Why did the Paul brothers, as popular as they are on YouTube, decide we want to get punched in the face because we know we can make money doing it? Because they understood there was an audience and popularity and people cared about it. People could argue, well, boxing's not good because the Pauls are having success. And I'm with Helwani on this. It says, if people are tuning into your sport and care about what happens and who the contenders are and the fighters and the undercard of people who are promoting their careers and they're making money more than ever before in their fight life, that's good for boxing. Now, it would have been great for boxing if Anthony Joshua had beaten Alexander Usyk. 70,000 people packed across the pond to watch Anthony Joshua and the pain from the Ukraine, Alexander Usyk. Anthony Joshua has the following. Think about this guy, for the lack of a better example, somewhere in the mix between Conor McGregor and Manny Pacquiao, that despite how his performance would have been, Ruiz, even though he got upset, people care across the pond. I'll drop that one more time. About what Anthony Joshua does. AJ, his fighting style, more European than American, and what that means is not going for the massive knockouts that people in the fight game like us we'd like to see. The true sweet science of boxing. Big, huge athlete, a la Lennox Lewis from 20 years ago. The Brits love Anthony Joshua. Now, Usyk, he was supposed to be just the guy he got by, a true contender who could really push him and test him, Joshua, to get ready for the Fury fight. Well, because of contracts and everything else, Joshua got beat again. And next weekend, we're going to see Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 3. And if you want to talk about American versus European styles, Deontay Wilder screams American heavyweight, going for the bomb squad. going for the bomb squad knockout, while Tyson Fury can outbox him all day. I wish I could have gotten Joshua Fury, and we still might. I'll have better thoughts on this probably 2 weeks from now with Tyson Fury. If he gets by Deontay Wilder, which I believe he will, what will you do if you're Tyson Fury? Do you fight Usyk and unify the heavyweight championship and call yourself the greatest champion in the world and be the first one in years to have all the heavyweight belts? Or do you say, screw that shit, I'm taking my money, man. I know the paydays with Anthony Joshua. I know this guy from the Ukraine just beat him, but guess what? I'm packing Wembley, baby. I'm about to be like Freddie Mercury and Queen. We're going to pack Wembley and get 95,000 people in there. And I'll take one of the fattest boxing paychecks we've seen in decades. Well, Fury will have that decision to make post-Wilder. And who knows, maybe Wilder fights Usyk and Joshua fights Fury. You can see the combination here of these names floating around, but all that conversation is true. That people will care about boxing again. It will be a Saturday night pay-per-view. It will be the betting side of it. To have heavyweights, to have that conversation with your buddies to say, that guy would kick my ass. Unfortunately for fighters who weigh $140, $150, and $180, although they're trained professional assassins, there's something very tribal and deep to the core of man looking at other man saying, I could fight him because I'm bigger. When you have a big, heavyweight, undefeated, you truly, as I said earlier, can call yourself the baddest man on the planet, a la Mike Tyson, when you're the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world. So as much as it would be great for boxing to have had Joshua Fury packing Wembley, we still might get it. But people care about these fighters now. Tyson Fury has to do both, and we'll talk more about that fight next week. But boxing's in an okay spot. Even after that upset, the conversation around the fight game is only good for the future. Some of you may remember this, some of you may not. The reason Goz on the Go is one day later this week, I was at AEW, All Elite Wrestling in Rochester, New York, year and a half after, basically. Somewhere around March 2020, I believe I was supposed to be there. COVID hit. Ticket redeemed. What a show. One more time, this will be the running joke. This is your time to drink if you want. If you have a drinking game to the Goz on the Go special, that if you're not a wrestling fan, watch All Elite Wrestling. If you're a wrestling fan in the past, go to a show. It's the best wrestling show I've ever been to. Even as a kid. The old days of the 90s Raws with The Rock and Austin, the recent Raws that we had to watch at the Times Union Center house shows, that is the best pro wrestling event I've ever been to. It was long. You had the other shows taping before, so it was a 4-hour event. I had a few beers, and they were tasty, and they were delicious, and I enjoyed it all. Because there's a fun mix there at AEW shows. You have the hardcore. I had two guys sitting next to me who were basically doing their own podcast. I think Brian, Katie, and JJ should have had them on White Heat. So you got like the podcast fan, you've got the kid fan, you've got like, I'm just back at a wrestling to see these guys do these big time moves. All Elite Wrestling felt like a party for 4 hours that you wanted to be a part of. Now, ticket sales wise, I know they love talking about how fast they sell things out and how much the fans are into it. It wasn't sold out. It was probably like 75% filled. But you had the engaging audience, the passionate audience. So who cares if it was 75% or 85%? If you're an AEW hater, you can go to that. But if your fans are into it, they had a fun time, they're going to buy your merch, they're going to buy your gear. That's all you want. You have a fan base that's into the show. I'd rather have 75% of the place packed into every single match, cheering, chanting, and going nuts, than a full house of people sitting on their hands. All Elite Wrestling was great, man. All right, let's get into our picks this week. Before we get into our picks, 2 shout-outs real quick. 1, to our friends at the Hideaway, Saratoga Lake Golf Club. Levac and I will be broadcasting there live this Sunday, 11:30 to 1. If you love college football, once in a while, Levac will be doing these shows. Levac and I, from his house, a.k.a. The Deuce. We'll be doing a show this Saturday, 10 a.m. to noonish. We can do a little college game day style there, 10:30. Just keep your eye on the Facebook page. Facebook, it's Tech East. Gozilla Media's YouTube. So 2 weekend shows to be prepared for. Live from the Deuce on Saturday. Live from the Hideaway. Come join us. Bloody Marys. Get ready for the NFL season. Get your picks in and all that. And also shout out to our friends over at Football on the Know. They're going to be live next Thursday Night Football from Nonola. So shout out to our friends at Nonola. Get those Gator Bites, baby. Oh, they're so good. Get the Gator Bites there. Check out our friends over at Football on the Know. And also shout out to our new sponsor, Colorize For more information on Color Rise in Clifton Park, head to GozillaMedia.com so they can help you with your painting needs. Now, let's get some picks. Let's do this thing. Let's start with one of the most popular college football teams to pick. That is the Chanticleers from Myrtle Beach, Coastal Carolina. So many people have had fun betting them last season to cover Chanticleers. First time ever I'm wagering on Coastal Carolina. They get UL Monroe. Preseason, you could have taken the under on total wins for UL Monroe, and I believe at some places it was 0.5 because they had Kentucky. And the only win they were scheduled, they were going to be the favorite, and it was Jackson State. But they went out last week and beat Troy by double digits. So now there's the overcorrection. How about 34.5? Give me all them points. The Chanticleers will smack UL Monroe. Coastal Carolina could finish the season in the top 10, while UL Monroe likely won't win a game for the rest of the season. So I'll take 34.5 Coastal Carolina. My second play here, Oklahoma, Kansas State. Oklahoma does not look good. Spencer Rattler, the number one pick in the country, the best player in the country, he's not good. He thinks he's Patrick Mahomes. Spoiler alert, he's not. He thinks he can throw behind the back and no look. He's got the cocky swag attitude. He's not good. He's not one of the best players in the country. He was getting booed. And they wanted to see Caleb Williams, another 5-star quarterback, take over for Spencer Rattler because he's so bad. Here's why I like the Wildcats. Well, one reason is because they beat them last season. Oklahoma and Kansas State played. How about a 38-35 final in favor of the Wildcats? One of the best stats I found all preseason involves Kansas State football against the spread. How about this? As an underdog at home over the last 10 years, Kansas State against the spread, 16-5. How about just being an underdog in general over the last 10 years against the spread? Kansas State football, 43-16. Yeah, I'll take those odds in my favor. It was at 10.5 when I got it. It's at up to 11.5 now. Take Kansas State with the points. And Ole Miss, Alabama. Matt Corral, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, question mark. I bring that up not because I'm allowed to talk about my vote, because we've seen over the past few years, if you go out and beat Alabama, you can win the Heisman Trophy. Cam Newton at Auburn, Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M, Joe Burrow at LSU. That's the power of beating Bama. And Matt Corral's talked about as being the best quarterback in the country. Lane Kiffin and his pass with Alabama. Corral can sling it around. Can he go out and beat the Crimson Tide? I'm not that confident, but I know the game opened at 20.5 and it's bet all the way down to 14.5. That's a lot of public money. Some people get scared off by that because they want to bet against the public. I'll take the Rebels at 14.5. I've been hyping up this game for a week. Rebels will cover. Hotty toddy. I hope they win. I want Ole Miss to win. I want chaos in college football. We'll see if the Rebels can do it. You know what? I gave 6 picks last week. I want to give another. Let's do it. I just can't give 3 picks. I only feel good about those 3 games. I only feel really good about Ole Miss, Kansas State, and Coastal Carolina. Let's give a bonus because I want chaos this week. Arkansas, Georgia. 18 points. How about this stat? If Arkansas wins, they should be the number 1 team in the country. They beat Georgia. They beat Texas A&M. 2 teams in the top 8. Alabama would not have a better case to be the number 1 team in the country than Arkansas. That's what the Hogs can do. You know what? Everyone's got a Coach O impression. I want to start cornering the market on the Sam Pittman impression. If you haven't seen the piece on Game Day, go watch the College Game Day piece on the new coach, the 30-year offensive line coach who's running the Hogs. Let's get Arkansas for some kills here. Let's take Arkansas. Let's take the Hogs at 18, huh? I want to hear Coach Pittman go crazy in the locker room. I want to corner the market. The more Arkansas football wins, the more fun college football is going to be this season. Go Hogs. Turn on that Nubo. Would there be anything better right now than Baby Rex waking up after my dumb Sam Pittman impression? Go Hogs. All right, NFL picks for you. Least confident to most confident. Let's go with this one. A lot of teams that have helped me cash so far this season. The Cleveland Browns, 2-point favorites against the Minnesota Vikings. I did not like that line when it opened. It was even. It feels like a sucker bet. I tell you that sometimes these lines, you got to just dig deeper into them. But Cleveland can run the football. Baker Mayfield, it's a close game in the 4th. Don't you just give more faith to Baker and the skill guys for the Browns and the Vikings? Alexander Madison's really good, but he's not Dalvin Cook. I'll give Cleveland 2. If a game-winning field goal puts it through, I'll bank on a Cleveland Brown victory. Third, confident in that. Second, confident. Let's just bet Denver Bronco unders till our eyes bleed, huh? Bronco football, they take on the Ravens this week. 45, let's take the under. The Ravens had trouble moving the football against the Detroit Lions last week. They needed a record-setting kick to hit that in. Lamar Jackson's in a weird contract situation where he's negotiating a $100 million contract with no agent and his mom's his representative. That's a real story that's out there right now. So because of the uncertainty with Lamar Jackson and Denver fine with beating teams 21-17, give me Bronco Raven under in the final game of the weekend. I cannot wait. There may be no game this season I feel more confident in than my Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to Foxborough on Sunday night. I hope Tom Brady starts screaming like a psychopath during the game at Bill Belichick. Like he has to be restrained and gets in his face and says, "You'd be nothing without me, Belichick." I hope Tommy Boy runs up the score. I hope Bruce Arians calls for a knee when they're up 20 in the 3 minutes ago and Brady refuses to knee. I don't know if you've seen the signs in Foxborough that one Brady fan bought. It said 62-74. I don't know if that number has significance to you. 62-74 is the record of Bill Belichick without Tom Brady as his quarterback. The Buccaneers are going to pound New England on Sunday night. The spread last I checked was 7. And I say last I checked because I haven't even touched the 7. I bet it up to 10, to 13.5, to 14.5. It is 7. Bet my Bucks all day. I've never felt more confident about any other bet this season than Tampa. Yes, I'm a Buccaneer fan, but I hope I get the theater of Brady ripping apart Belichick during this game. Oh, I can't wait for Sunday night. All right, guys on the go. I'm glad I waited a day so I can hype up my Belichick hate more and the Brady or light them up Sunday night. All right, we'll catch you guys next week. Enjoy the shows. Enjoy the weekend shows as well. October's officially here.